It is Election Day in America. As we've been reporting, depending on today's turnout, this could be a record-setting election based off early voting numbers. And reports from on the ground across Northeast Ohio show polling locations have been busy with long lines of voters. 3.5 hours remain now until polls close at 7:30 tonight. And if you still have your absentee ballot, you have until 7:30 tonight to put it into the drop box at your County Board of Elections. The Ohio Secretary of State yesterday reiterating the integrity and the security of Ohio's election process. He also encouraged voters to report any concerns to a precinct election official at a polling location. Let us know, too. We have had News 5 crews out across the region checking into your concerns at the polls. We'll get to that in just a moment. But, of course, there are presidential and U.S. candidates, U.S. Senate candidates who are on the Ohio ballot, and a statewide issue as well, which, again, we'll get to shortly here at 4 o'clock. But plenty of local issues as well that'll be impacting a lot of communities, like in North Canton, where residents will be voting on Issue 9. It's a bond issue that, if passed, would fund a new fire and EMS facility on North Main Street. Tonight, our Bob Jones is live there to show us voters and how they have been waiting in long lines to cast their ballots.
Well, Katie, we are at the North Canton Civic Center, where we have seen a steady stream of voters all day long, people coming and going from this entrance. At one point, we saw that line stretch out that front door and all the way down to that grassy area where you see those cars coming right now. Earlier today, several North Canton residents told me this was the longest they've ever had to wait to vote in this city of about 18,000 people, about a 45-minute wait. But no one was complaining. The weather's been beautiful, and several people talked about the importance of having their voices heard. There are over 253,000 registered voters in Stark County, and in 2020, more than 75% of them cast ballots. Elections officials say with the turnout today, it's possible we could hit 75% or better this time around. As far as problems, the deputy director says there have been a few equipment issues with printers that needed to be cleaned or fixed, but nothing that has prevented anyone from voting. And while some of the national and state races have been contentious, Regina Johnson says the mood here is calm and orderly.
It may be nationally extremely divisive. We haven't felt it that much in Stark County. Our voters have been turning out. They've been peaceful when they came in here. They keep the politics outside of the voting room in large part. And some of the problems that you might see in battleground states, we have not been seeing, even though there's a very competitive senatorial race going on.
And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about an issue that these North Canton voters will be deciding on, Issue 9. It would be a property bond that, if passed, would build a new fire station, something city leaders have pushed for 5 other times. So coming up tonight at 6, we're going to follow through and tell you what some of the voters out here are thinking about Issue 9. Live in North Canton, Bob Jones, News 5.
Statewide, Ohio voters will be deciding on Issue 1, a proposed amendment to Ohio's Constitution that poses the question, should citizens, not politicians, be empowered to draw district lines for the Ohio General Assembly and U.S. House in an effort to end gerrymandering by removing politicians from the redistricting process? Let's bring in our Columbus Bureau reporter, Morgan Trow, our Issue 1 expert here. Morgan, first, let's talk about how did we get here?
Really, this amendment comes from the redistricting mess of 2022. That's when the bipartisan Ohio Supreme Court struck down 7 different maps, saying they unfairly benefited the Republicans. Right now, the Ohio Redistricting Commission is made up of 7 people. 2 are always Republican lawmakers, 2 are always Democratic lawmakers, the governor, secretary of state, and the auditor. So those are the ones that get to draw the maps.
Okay, second, who would sit on the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission, and how would they be selected?
It's made up of 15 Ohioans, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 5 independent Ohioans with no political ties. They'd be chosen by a bipartisan panel of retired judges. Those judges would work with a search firm to get applications, which starts the background check process, looking at conflicts of interest, references, and relevant experience. The judges would then publicize 90 finalists for public review, and it's whittled down to half, and then 6 members are chosen at random. Those 6 commissioners would then choose the remaining 9.
Has this been done elsewhere and with success?
Yeah, 8 other states have a non-political commission. Ours would look very close to our neighbor up north, Michigan. They've had success with theirs, and blue states like Washington and California have a similar system, but so do red states like Arizona and Idaho.
What do supporters of Issue 1 say, and what do opponents say?
Supporters say this will prevent gerrymandering and allow for the voters to have their own voice heard. Opponents say this lacks accountability because commissioners cannot be voted out, unlike lawmakers.
So this is an important note that we want to talk about. The ballot language has really been confusing for a lot of voters on this. Why?
So the Republican-controlled ballot board changed the language that you see when you go to the polls. Instead of using the language that voters signed onto to get the amendment on the ballot, Republican Secretary of State Frank LaRose and the GOP changed the language of the amendment to say that the commission would be required to gerrymander. Nonpartisan election law experts say that voting yes would actually stop gerrymandering.
Okay, so then what does a yes vote on issue 1 mean, and what does a no vote on issue 1 mean?
Yeah, voting yes is to create an independent commission, and a vote no is to keep the lawmakers in charge of the maps.
All right. Morgan Trow, our Columbus Bureau reporter, so nice to have you up here in Cleveland with us on this election night, and thank you for explaining issue 1 for us.
Of course.
If you have any problems casting your ballot today, you can reach out to us via phone or email. Call 216-431-3700 or send us an email to tips@wews.com, and we'll look into it for you. Again, the Secretary of State also encouraging you to report any concerns immediately to a precinct election official, or you can report it to their election integrity unit, which you can find on the Ohio Secretary of State's website. And coming up on News 5 at 4:30, investigator Jonathan Walsh will be joining us live. He has spent the day following up on viewer concerns across Northeast Ohio at the polls. And News 5 has complete election coverage for you, both on air, on TV, and on our News 5 app and website, which is where you will also find stories of the day and our election guide, where you can learn more about the candidates and the issues and the judges, too, who you'll be voting on.